Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we'd love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. It's season 15, even more peak! What are my top 5 episodes of a season just riddled with quality? We're gonna get some bangers. We're also gonna get one of the biggest guest star roles of the entire series. You know the episode, you know I've gotta talk about it, and you know it's right here. So let's get into it. It's season 15, top 5 episodes, let's go! Number 5, Men to Boys. This is just a fun episode. On the A story, you have Klaus getting together his bachelor boys. I am disappointed that none of Klaus's boys joined them for this adventure, but it's fun to have Klaus, Stan, and Jeff being a part of an adventure together. We also get the return of Shoshana, and I love Klaus's slow cooker, especially when he's debating with like the barbecue guy. It's like, can it cook it in 9 hours? I see what you're doing. 6 hours? It just keeps going down. And it's delightful. It is so fun. And then the B story has Haley and Francine getting a male stripper. And it's just this guy played by Patton Oswalt who just goes and hides in their walls because he can't get them revved up without D batteries for his freaking It's so dumb. It is so dumb in the best way. And I don't know. I appreciate when Patton Oswalt does this kind of comedy, this kind of voice work again. You know, a lot of people make him more family friendly now, but he is a fantastic voice actor. He is very, very talented. And I am so glad he came on as a guest on this episode. It's one of my favorite episodes that he's a guest on. And he's been in a couple of times. It's leagues better than Kiss Kiss Cam Cam. But I think the most important thing is this is where everyone's coming together to support Klaus. Like, I keep seeing people talking about how Klaus has been betrayed by the family or is used and abused and this, that, and whatever. But the writers don't misunderstand Klaus. The writers completely get what Klaus is supposed to represent, who Klaus is. Klaus has become a fully actualized Smith family member, and he's a talking goldfish. They don't have to give him A stories. They could just leave him and let him do as he pleases. But they know D. Bradley Baker is gonna make Klaus absolutely shine every time he's on screen, and he absolutely does. This episode really showed to me that Klaus is a A-story character. And he's had plenty of A-stories before this. He is not new to them, but it's not something where they're experimenting with Klaus having an A-story. It's something where they're like, okay, we've got to have a Klaus A-story this season. What is something we can do with him? And that's great. I love that the fish is included, and Men to Boys is just great watching. Number 4, Roger Needs Dick. I'll admit, again, this is a super biased pick, but I really, really like Roger Needs Dick. I appreciate that it's, you know, much like Max Jets, the family isn't quite right for wanting to break him up with Dick, but he also overreacts to the nines. And of course, you know, Klaus's Photoshop skills finally come in handy and he gets to shine, much like he did in Klaus Catastrophe TV, but it's okay. It's just when he becomes the assassin and he's just Leon the Professional. And I don't know what it is about Jean Reno, but I love Leon the Professional. Godzilla 98 was not that bad to me. Granted, I was a child, so I was a huge fan of any big lizard, you know, and then, okay, so here's a completely dumb tangent. When I was first discovering the wide world of online manga and anime and, you know, all these different series that were catching my attention, I came across a series called Hot Man. And Hot Man focuses around a character who's trying to take care of his family and raise all of his siblings, and the main character is modeled after Jean Reno. Turns out, Jean Reno is just like huge in Japan. He's played Doraemon in a bunch of commercials, and he was a model for one of the fighters in Shoot Fighter Tekken or Tough, and that's just fantastic in its own right. And so I have had this fascination with Jean Reno almost my entire life without really knowing who he is until I was, you know, comfortably in my 20s. And then I see this episode, and it's just them making a Leon the Professional reference. I'm like, oh my god, that's great! that's fantastic because they don't call attention to it, but they give Roger this thick French accent, which, again, if you don't get the reference, is just a fun Roger, persona. But if you do, it's a deep cut. It's a fun deep cut, and it's just, there's so much charm because American Dad never tries to stay topical. It is always evergreen, and I love that. I love that you can watch a season 15 episode and then like a season 9 episode, and they're not going to have a lot of current events going on, and that works for the show brilliantly. Number 3, Trophy Wife, Trophy Life. Sometimes you put an episode on a list because you just love Jean Reno and you want to gush about him. Sometimes you put an episode on your list because it's just great American Dad. And I kind of love everything about Trophy Wife, Trophy Life for all of the right and wrong reasons. Not only do we get a Nicole Byer redo, where she is phenomenal, because of course she is. Everybody loves Nicole Byer. But we also get Sad Fatty. The B story is Sad Fatty. Between Stan getting crushed by a satellite and getting all those bars as it's coming careening down, which obviously not how it works, but it's funny, it's fun. And then he becomes codependent on Francine, and they open a trophy store together, and it's all right. The thing that sells the A story for me, though, is the truck driver that's like, I'm gonna get you, Pickle Man! And then he hits Stan with the truck, and then the Pickle Monster actually comes and gets him at the end of the episode. That's great. That's fun. I love that Langley is weird. If it was just a bunch of cutaways like in Family Guy, the city as a whole wouldn't be all that exciting. But in American Dad, you genuinely don't know what other people are up to. And we're shown time and time again that they're just as eccentric as the Smith family. As American Dad has gone on, ironically, the Smith family's become more and more normal, not because they've toned down, but because the entire world outside of them has been cranked up. Tuttle is a part of a Korean show where they try and make him as sad as possible because his misery is comedy to them. And then he eats cake out of the trash. Now, I'm not gonna say that's amazing, but it makes me laugh. It gets a he and a haw out of me because of how it's handled, because of how eccentric the entire show has become. Pickle Man and Sad Fatty. There's so much to love, and it's just like, this is another one of those benchmark episodes that shows you they have really perfected the formula to episode crafting. Number 2, Exquisite Corpses. This is such a weird combination for an episode, but I really, really kind of love it though. It's a Francine, Roger, and Jeff episode where they get a bus and take people to the RB Burger Killer crime scenes so that they can see them all. And it really is just a wonderful study of these three characters and their dynamics. I know that sounds, again, very, very basic, but think about it. They're the ones that stay at home all day. They're the ones that have set up these daily schedules while everyone else is either at work or school, and they're just doing their own thing. And then they decide to do the bus, and that's great. None of them really have any great ideas. It all sort of bungles their way forward, but it's great seeing Jeff, Roger, and Francine just sort of cyclically encourage worse and worse behavior. Plus, we also just get Craig Robinson asking them to not draw attention to the fact that he's Craig Robinson, and I love that. I've heard Craig Robinson in many an American Dad episode, and I love whenever I can hear him just like, you on Tinder? Like, Craig Robinson he's up there. It's like him, Kevin Michael Richardson, two of my favorite voice actor, whatever of all time. I could watch Craig Robinson in anything. I've talked about The Goods many a time, and that was probably the first time I fell in love with his acting and his comedy. He is a fantastic comedian if you've never seen his stand-up. But Exquisite Corpses is just fun, and I love that it's not saved by Stan, Steve, or Haley. It's saved by the people finally getting to relive their dream that they've always wanted to accomplish of just, killing a guy. And that's great. Again, it shows off that Langley has gotten weird. I also really appreciate that one of them is the teacher from the Seven Fires episode. And I keep imagining her like going to a cooking class after taking out the RB Burger Killer. And it's such a fun episode that never takes itself seriously, even as they're hunting a serial murderer. It's just, I love it. Also, David Herman's in this episode. It's fun to hear him in something where he's not like every fifth character. He's just one of the cops, and that's fine, and I love that. And number 1, A Star Boy is Born. I feel like I keep saying this, but again, if you didn't think A Star Boy is Born is going to be number 1 on my list, you just have not been paying attention at all. Because not only do we get The Weeknd, who helped write the episode, who I would love, you know, Seth MacFarlane, come on my show, let me interview you, let me ask you what it was like for The Weeknd to come on. That has to have been interesting. I'm sure you have a story. But that's not even the main focus, okay? Like, The Weeknd is cool, the music video's great, I'm a Virgin is a bop, Roger pretending to be The Weeknd is fun, you get Doctor Who, it's all delightful, it's all, you know, it's a wonderful little adventure, everybody's got something to do with The Weeknd, yay! But then people forget the biggest star power of the entire season. People forget the biggest guest star American Dad has ever gotten. And I am, of course, talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Breckenmeyer. The man comes in as the ultimate hype man, and I lived it in my bones. When I was first watching this episode, I was like, oh man, they got The Weeknd? That's so cool. And then Roger's like, get me Breckenmeyer, I want a hype man. And then they actually got Breckenmeyer to play this fantastical version of himself. And it's just, you know what? That's everything I needed. I have loved Breckenmeyer since I was a kid. I adore whenever I hear him. I enjoyed Franklin and Bash. I like him. I genuinely like Breckenmeyer. I think he's a really funny guy. And A Star Boy is Born, you know, The Weeknd did a wonderful performance. It was better than The Idol, I'll say that much. Like, anything can be better than The Idol, but it just, I don't know. It showed that not only was he willing to make a joke at his expense, he was willing to have a ton of fun with it. And I think that's the real charm to guest stars on American Dad. They're not there because it's the popular thing to do. They're there usually because they're just genuine fans. They just like the show. And they're willing to do more and more wild ideas than, you know, hey Lois, remember that time that Matthew McConaughey knocked on the door and was like, hey Peter, what's up? Like, they actually involved themselves in the story. And I mean, Kim Kardashian was a pink fluff ball. And that's just because she enjoyed the show, and I like that. There is a charm to people just having fun in a show and making a show, and I don't know. I will miss the day that there's not new American Dad episodes, because A Star Boy is Born showed that American Dad is not a fluke, that they're doing something so fun and so right. And there we have it, folks. That's season 15. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What are your top 5 episodes of the season? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, again, much like Rabbit Ears in the past season, if you didn't think A Star Boy is Born is number 1 on my list, especially with the Breckster in it, that's on you. I have talked about my love of Breckenmeyer the entire time I have been doing reviews, because Breckenmeyer is angelic. Man was in Rat Race, and that means something. Anyway, yeah, it's just another solid season full of bops. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your top 5. And if you want to help support the channel, feel free to join our Patreon and membership group. Not only will you get videos like this early, you'll also be able to get your name on this very wonderful list here. Ooh! And support the channel so we can make cool videos like this even longer. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you all next time for Season 16, the rough season. It didn't deserve it. It had a lot going against it, but I think these 5 episodes of the next season really stand the test of time, and we will get into it. As always, stay strong, stay you, keep fighting that good fight, and know I always believe in you. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.